Second graders, for this Metepec, Mexico sun weaving project, we've got quite a few steps. So at the store, the first thing you're going to get is this thick paper plate. When you go to your spots, your name is going to go on the back of the plate, and we are going to paint it right away using the cake temperas, and you need water to make these cake temperas work. Stick with one color for the painting of this plate. And I'm going to call this a quick wash. A wash is a light, thin layer of paint. So I'm not looking to make this the darkest color ever. I'm just looking to add color onto this plate. And I want to do it quickly today so that it dries and we can do a couple other steps to the plate. So this is just going to make our weaving kind of a little more interesting so we don't have all the same white plates. Notice that I am using quite a bit of water to get these paints to spread. Not doing any mixing. When you are done with your plate, you are going to go back to the store to get your supplies for the middle area of this project. Awesome. I'm going to put my brush in the water cup. This is just going to stay at my table spot to dry. If everybody at your table is done painting, you can carry these supplies to the sink, or Mrs. Cleary will help you do that. So at the store, I am looking for a circle tracer. I'm looking for my own piece of tag board that I can trace that circle on. And I'm also going to need a scrap of this foam. It does not matter what color foam you get because we're not going to see it. So I'm going to start by tracing this tracer onto my little piece of tag board, and I'm going to cut it out. This is going to be my middle area of the plate that looks like metal. We're going to use foil to make this. So on this circle, I am going to get my name on the back just in case. Flip that over. I've got paint on there, not a big deal, it's going to get covered up. But I need to think about a design for the middle that is sun or a moon or a half sun, half moon. So this foam is pretty easy to cut. I am going to fold it like I would paper, and that way I can cut two of the same thing out. I think we were practicing already this year on cutting two of the same thing out. Just makes it go faster. So I have two eye shapes. This foam you could also draw on with pencil if you needed to draw a shape first. So I'm thinking I need two round circle eyes. So again, I'm folding this, trying to use those time-saving techniques we talked about earlier this year. Awesome. So you can actually layer these. So I'm trying to build this up so it gets higher, so when we put the metal on, they will kind of stick out. I'm going to cut some eyebrows. Thinking I want some maybe curved eyebrows. See if I can fold this long and skinny to get two. So I'm going to keep working on this, adding as much detail as possible. And I am going to glue this down as I go. So glue, again, you don't want to be sloppy. You want to use just the right amount of glue. And layering it up tall will work awesome today. You want to make sure that you have some features for the face. Features are those eyes, nose, mouth, and anything extra you might want to add. Alright, I have added all of those features to my sun. So I've got everything glued on here. It's still a little squishy and moving, but I can still continue. You are going to get a piece of tinfoil today. One side is super shiny. One side doesn't have quite as much shine. I don't want to use this side. I'm going to put this side onto my project so I see a lot of that shine. What I'm doing right now is I am just rubbing over my project, and as I'm doing that, the tinfoil is kind of popping up where I've added all of those special things onto my project. I'm kind of pushing, rubbing a little bit carefully. I'm not using my sharp fingernail or poking because my tinfoil will rip. So now that I see a lot of this stuff coming up, I am going to fold my tinfoil over carefully. So I put one hand in the back and kind of flip it, and I am just going to crumple my tinfoil carefully around that shape of the circle. So it gets kind of bumpy on the back, but now on the front I can really start to see all those things that I added onto my sun. I am going to get a messy mat for this next part. So we're going to use permanent markers to add color onto our project. Permanent marker sticks awesome to the tinfoil, and you still get that awesome shine that the tinfoil has. So right now I'm looking for all those things I added, and I'm going to color them to kind of make them pop out. This is probably not going to look real. Your sun doesn't even have to be a sun color. You could have different colors. If you're doing a half moon, half sun, you could definitely use the two colors to make that show. I am going to continue to color this on the first day we're working on this project. If you don't finish coloring on the first day, that's okay. No matter how far we get, we are going to glue the sun onto our plate we painted. So let's pretend I ran out of time. Not a big deal. I am going to take my painted plate and I'm going to glue that circle in the middle as best as I can. We're gluing today so that it has time to dry. So I am putting quite a bit of glue on this back side. I am going to flip it over, and I'm trying to make sure that I've got this lined up in the middle. I don't want it overlapping that edge. And I am going to push down on it pretty well. And if I don't finish coloring, I will be able to do that next time, right as we start our weaving. So I took my time to finish coloring this project as I ended the first day working on it and into my second. I added color with the permanent markers, and I added some Sharpie designs on top with the black, doing some outlining and some design work, just making this really look like the Mexican art that we talked about. Now I'm ready to start the weaving. So this is going to be our tracing pattern for the weaving. And it doesn't matter how it fits on there, upside down or turned. What I'm looking to do is fit this plate onto the tracer. So now where all these little lines are, I'm going to make a line on the flat part of my plate. I'm not going up the side of it, just where all these little dashes are. If you count them, there are 13, which is an odd number, and having an odd number is super important for the weaving part. I'm going to take this off. I am done with that tracer already, and now I'm going to cut a little slit, and I'm cutting to almost exactly where that metal is, but I'm also stopping when it gets to the flat part of the plate where our food would sit. So not a lot of cutting, almost just like one little snip for me. And I'm doing that on all 13. And then I'm ready for a little bit of yarn and some taping. I'm going to flip this over. There are pieces of yarn spread throughout the art room that have already been cut. They're actually some leftover pieces of yarn. And this yarn is about 4 or 5 feet long. So it's quite a bit of yarn. I am going to take one little tail end and I'm going to put it into one of the slits, and I'm going to put it all the way in so it's at the bottom of my cut. Leaves me one little tail. I am going to just leave that tail, and what I'm going to do with the yarn is I am going to go in or on top, and then I'm going under the next tab and coming on top, under this next one. And as you can see, there's a pattern of on top, under, on top, under, on top. I am doing this all the way around the plate with my first piece of yarn. going in and out of those tabs. I'm almost to that spot I started on, and when I do that, it's actually going to be opposite. So I keep going in, and now where I was on top in the first row, my next row is actually going to be underneath that tab. So as I work around the second time, I'm going to cover all of those tabs. What really works nice is if you use several different colors for this weaving, you really start to see the pattern. So with this first piece of yarn, I am almost done with my second row, and I'm actually starting a third row right here. So now I'm on my third row, or third time around, and you can see that I'm starting my actual second row of yarn on those tabs. So I'm getting less and less yarn. When I run out, I want to run out on the back side so that all of my tails are on the back side of the plate. I just go in and out. I'm lifting these tabs to help me get in and out. Almost there. Short little tail left. Let's see, can I make it? Oh, I did make it all the way. So that this little tail, is exactly where I started. That's not going to happen every time. But those two tails on the back, I really don't need to tie or tape or glue or anything. They're pretty stuck there. So now I'm ready for another piece of yarn. I am going to start this piece of yarn exactly where I ended. So I'm putting a little tail right here. And now I'm just going to continue in that same circle, going in and out. And I'm going to go around and around, and as I look, I think that I need to backtrack, because now some of these are getting 3 pieces of yarn and this one only has 1. I'm actually going to start right there. I think that's where my pattern is supposed to be. Got that little tail in the back, and I'm ready to continue. So I would say that on the day 2 of this project, you're going to weave as many strings or pieces of yarn as you can. If I look at my finished example, I have a brown, a blue, a yellow, a red, and a white. Oh, and there is a purple in here. So I have 6 different strands of yarn, and that filled the plate pretty full. I can't really go all the way to the end, or it'll just pop off the plate. This is a pretty finished piece of artwork that will go in the drying rack by my number spot.